Puberty syndrome is a weird thing that hits teens, making them experience strange stuff due to their sensitivity and instability. Sakuta Azusagawa, a second-year high school student near Enoshima, meets several girls dealing with it. One is Mai Sakurajima, an actress on hiatus and is senior at school. For some reason, no one else can see her. The story kicks off with a high school boy snapping awake from a fever dream level of weirdness, still haunted by that mystery chick who has the audacity to ask him for a kiss. He sits up, groggy and annoyed, wondering why this girl keeps gate-crashing his dreams like she has VIP access to his subconscious. He grabs his diary, flips through the pages, and something's off. Half this stuff feels like a stranger has written it. His eyes land on a wild entry from May 6th, talking about some rabbit senpai he apparently meets in the library. That day is business as usual, him looking for a book, minding his own business, when he spots a girl strutting around in a full-blown bunny costume, like it's the most normal thing ever. Right there in the library, plain as day, but not a single soul reacts. She eventually stops next to him, finally realizing someone can actually see her. That's when the mental gears click. She's his senior. He calls out her name, and she hits him with a cool and collected intro. Mai Sakurajima. She tells him straight up to forget what he sees, like he's just gonna let that slide. Next morning, on his way to school, Sakuta throws out a casual comment about bunny girls to his friend because what better way to start the day? His buddy, completely clueless, says he would be thrilled to see one. Sakuta then points at Mai, strolling ahead of them in her school uniform, and mentions her. His friend squints, side-eyes him like he's lost his last brain cell, and confirms he can see her just fine. Before Sakuta can process that, his friend's pain-in-the-ass girlfriend swoops in, yanks him away, and shoots Sakuta a glare like he personally insulted her bloodline. Later that day, on his way home, Sakuta catches some randos trying to snap a sneaky pic of Mai. He shuts that down real quick, and Mai, unfazed as ever, hits him with a thanks before they end up walking together. He's half expecting her to act all celebrity distance with him, but instead she drops the real reason she knows his name. She pulls up articles about the so-called hospitalization incident at their school. Some garbage rumors painting him as a violent menace who sends people to the ER. He just glances at the headlines, shrugs, and keeps it moving. He's heard worse. Mai also noticed that Sakuta didn't have a phone. When she asked him why, he casually said he threw it into the sea. Then he flipped the conversation back to her and asked her what was really going on. She explained that she had been a well-known actress for years, always recognized everywhere she went. But one day, when she went out alone, nobody noticed her at all. Just like that, she had become invisible. That's why she started dressing up in a bunny costume, to test if anyone could still see her. Sakuta listened carefully, and didn't even question it. He simply nodded and told her that this was all because of adolescent syndrome, which explained why people couldn't see her. Mai was taken aback by how easily he accepted her story. Back at his place, he showed her a scar on his chest, explaining that it had appeared out of nowhere and that he had been hospitalized because of it. She put the pieces together. He wasn't some violent delinquent. He was the one who had been in the hospital. His younger sister, Katie, freaked out a little when she saw Mai in their house, but quickly retreated after greeting her. Sakuta then pulled out a picture of Katie from when she had been badly injured due to cyberbullying. He explained that the wounds had appeared on her body out of nowhere, forcing them to take her to the hospital. That's why he ditched his smartphone, and Kaide stayed away from the internet to keep her safe from that nightmare ever happening again. Sakuta then told Mai she should go back to showbiz, assuming that deep down, she missed her old life. But Mai snapped at him, saying she never once said she wanted to return. The argument got heated, and she stormed out of his house. The next day, Mai didn't show up at school. Sakuta talked to one of his friends about the whole adolescent syndrome theory, but she wasn't buying it. Instead, she explained measurement theory, which was about how much the human brain could actually perceive. That gave Sakuta a rough idea of why people couldn't see Mai. Later, he stopped by a bakery where he had bought a custard bun for Mai before, back when the shop owner couldn't see her. He got another one, walked slowly at first, then suddenly sprinted back home. When he reached his apartment, Mai was sitting outside, waiting for him. Smirking, he teased her about whether she had missed him. Sakuta wants to learn more about the adolescence theory, so he asks his friend Futaba for help. She explains some quantum stuff to him and shows him this cat-in-a-box experiment. Through it, Sakuta gets the idea that the human brain can handle situations where someone could either be invisible or visible, depending on how they're seen by others. Sakuta and Mai start hanging out more, like going grocery shopping together. Mai tells him she's invisible to everyone else, so she can do whatever she wants at the store. Sakuta gets confused when he sees her holding a carrot, and she explains that whatever she holds becomes invisible too. To test this out, Sakuta asks her to hold his hand to see if he becomes invisible too. But instead of holding his hand, Mai surprises him by rubbing against him and hugging him tight. Sakuta yelps from the sudden move, and someone behind them notices. Turns out, Sakuta is an exception. He doesn't disappear when Mai touches things. On their way home that night, Sakuta asks Mai if she'd think about going back to showbiz. Mai gets mad and tells him about how her mom used to treat her badly. She explains how one day, thinking she was going to a regular shoot, her mom forced her to do a bikini shoot. This makes Mai realize her mom's just been using her to make money. After talking it through, Mai starts to warm up to the idea of going back to showbiz, but only if it's on her own terms. Sakuta then tells her about a reporter who took pics of his scars in exchange for info on Mai. Mai gets mad and calls him an idiot for doing something so reckless, since it could lead to people attacking his home and sister. She quickly calls the reporter and makes a deal. She'll give her a better story if she doesn't expose shows Sakuta's photos. The reporter agrees, and Sakuta asks Mai if she's really going back to showbiz, but with a different agency. She decides she's done with her mom's agency for good. Sakuta walks her home, and Mai thanks him for everything. Before she heads inside her building, she sets a date with Sakuta and warns him not to be late. On their date day, Sakuta gets dressed up and heads to the train station to meet Mai. On the way, he helps a lost kid and gets caught up in some mess. Once he gets out of it, he hurries to the station. When he gets there, he looks for Mai. Luckily, she forgives him for being late, and they continue with the date. Sakuta tells Mai about a girl from school who helped him through a tough time. Mai gets jealous, but Sakuta explains that he never saw the girl again, and no one else remembered her either. Mai sighs and says she called her mom to meet her at the beach to tell her she's coming back to showbiz. Before Sakuta can say anything, Mai's mom shows up and storms over. But instead of going to her mom, Mai walks right past her and goes straight to Sakuta. Her mom asks Sakuta why he called her here, and both of them are shocked. Then, Mai turns invisible to her mom. After her mom leaves, Sakuta and Mai run around the city asking people if they remember Mai, but no one does. Even the reporter who made the deal with Mai forgets her. This sends Mai into panic mode. She tries to leave Sakuta, but he refuses to let her go. He suggests they travel to another city and see if anyone remembers her there. He tells Kaidi that he's going away for a bit with Mai. Even Kaidi forgets about Mai, but she agrees with her brother's decision. On the road, Mai asks Sakuta if he still remembers her. He tells her he does and promises he won't forget her. They get to a new city and book a hotel room. While Mai is in the bath, Sakuta calls his friends to ask if they remember Mai. Luckily they do, giving him some hope. That night, Mai and Sakuta share a bed and talk about what they'll do to make people remember Mai, no matter what. Mai wakes up and sees Sakuta, who hasn't slept a wink the whole night. They talk about how easily Mai slept while Sakuta stayed wide awake, always aware of her presence. They check out of the hotel and walk down the streets. No one seems to notice Mai, no matter how much she tries to get their attention. Sakuta feels bad for her and gets more determined to find a way to fix this problem. The next day at school, Sakuta meets Futaba, who tells him that everyone, except for him, has forgotten about Mai. They figure out that the only reason they haven't forgotten about her is because they didn't sleep the previous night. Sakuta decides he won't sleep, even if it kills him, just so he can always remember Mai. Futaba takes him to her lab and explains that Mai's been affected by the adolescent syndrome. She accidentally brought the experimental environment into the real world, which is why people are forgetting about her. Sleep, it turns out, is also causing people to forget her every single day. Futaba decides she'll study more about this syndrome and help Sakuta so he never forgets Mai. Sakuta starts taking medicine and drugs to stay awake at night. When Kaidi asks about it, he lies, saying they help him study for exams. The next day, Sakuta finds out that even Futaba has forgotten about Mai. This makes him even more upset. He's the only one who remembers her. Every day, he writes in his diary about his encounters with Mai to keep the memories alive. This continues for several days, until Sakuta becomes seriously sleep deprived. His dark circles are hard to miss, and he starts doing extreme things like poking himself to stay awake. Mai quietly watches as Sakuta's condition worsens. After thinking it through, she decides she can't let him keep going like this. Even his friends point out that he looks like a zombie. That day, Mai stays with Sakuta at his place and tells him she's going to tutor him for his exams. They start studying, with Mai teaching him sentences. After some time, Sakuta begins to nod off. When he falls asleep, Mai holds the sleeping pills in her hands and thanks Sakuta for working so hard to remember her. She decides to finally let him rest. The next morning, Sakuta wakes up with no memory of Mai. He reads his diary, but her name is gone from every page, like she never existed. Sakuta goes to school and his friend tells him he looks a lot better now. As he walks, he feels like someone's staring at him, but when he looks, no one's there. At school, Futaba hands him a page he wrote earlier about the adolescent syndrome. It gives him a small clue about Mai's existence, but he still doesn't remember her. During his final exam, memories of Mai suddenly flood back to him. He remembers her and rushes out of the classroom. He's determined now. He's going to make everyone remember Mai. Sakuta runs to the main grounds of the school and starts shouting his love for Mai. His loud confession catches the attention of everyone around, including the teachers. Sakuta keeps shouting for Mai, not caring what people think. After all his effort, Mai becomes visible to everyone. She runs to him and slaps him for his bold action. Rumors spread across the school, and Sakuta and Mai become the center of attention. Taking advantage of the moment, Mai tells everyone that Sakuta was innocent in the incident where she was hospitalized. The students start gossiping about it, confirming that they can now see and acknowledge Mai. Mai turns to Sakuta and asks him to confess to her again. When he does, she challenges him to confess to her again in a month. If he can do it, she'll accept his proposal. Sakuta agrees, and the two of them are called to the teacher's office for disciplinary lessons by the discipline committee. At the end of the day, Sakuta thanks Futaba for her help with the adolescent syndrome theory, which helped him remember Mai and made her visible to everyone else. On June 27th, Kaide is glued to the TV, watching the news about the Japanese team winning the national football tournament while Sakuta gets ready for school. He leaves the house, his mind still buzzing with thoughts of the championship. Once at school, he runs into Kunimi and Futaba. Kunimi can't resist poking fun at Sakuta's messy hair, but Sakuta just shrugs it off like it's no big deal. At lunch, Mai shows up with a homemade bento box, all crafted by her own hands just for him. Sakuta is taken aback, not expecting her to actually make it. As they eat, he decides to confess his love for her again. She looks away, a little hesitant, saying she'll say yes when the time is right. Mai then casually mentions a kissing scene she has to shoot for her next gig. Sakuta, feeling all protective, immediately tells her to reject it, but Mai's having none of it and insists on taking the role. She then drops a bombshell, revealing that Sakuta was her first kiss, but he can't remember it. She teases him, saying she'll kiss him again, but instead of her lips, an egg roll lands on his lips. Sakuta, a bit fed up with the teasing, warns her that if she keeps rejecting him, he might just fall out of love. Mai promises she'll give him an answer soon, and in that moment agrees to go out with him. That marks the start of their relationship. The next day, Sakuta wakes up feeling lighter, almost walking on air, but Kaidi's still sitting there, watching the same news about Japan's football win. Sakuta finds it strange that the same news and dates are looping over and over. When he asks her about it, Kaidi acts all confused, claiming it's her first time hearing the news. Something's off, and he can't quite shake the feeling. At school, things play out just like the day before. He meets Kunimi and Futaba, and their conversation follows the same pattern. Sakuta asks them if they remember the same conversation from yesterday, but they both say it's their first time having it. In his classroom, everything feels the same. Even the corny jokes are identical to the previous day. When he meets Mai, their conversation plays out just like before. She agrees to go out with him again, and they start dating. Sakuta steps out of the classroom, only to witness another love confession taking place on the stairs. He watches as the shy girl tells the boy she needs time to think about his confession. The next day, June 27th, repeats itself again. Sakuta, now bored and frustrated, realizes he's stuck in a time loop. He decides to talk to Futaba about it. Futaba explains that the loop is happening due to something called Laplace's demon. She tells him that the Laplace demon would be the person acting differently, with memories of the last 2 days. Sakuta starts searching for this person. The cycle repeats again, and Sakuta enters the classroom where he is supposed to ask Mai out. There, he sees a girl trying to hide in the back. He quickly realizes that she is the Laplace demon. She hasn't been in the classroom for the last 2 cycles. The girl introduces herself as Koga Tomoe. She's embarrassed, but agrees that she's been stuck in the loop for the past 3 days. Sakuta explains the situation to her and asks if anything has happened to her recently that triggered the adolescent syndrome. Koga doesn't believe him and keeps using her smartphone. Suddenly, someone tries to enter the classroom, and Koga pulls Sakuta to hide with her in the closet. They get stuck inside, while the boy who had confessed to Koga earlier checks the room and leaves. Koga explains that the boy is her friend's love interest, but he had confessed to her, leaving her confused and distressed. She doesn't want anyone to know about it because she fears they'll ignore her. Their conversation escalates into an argument, which leads to Koga falling on top of Sakuta. The boy who had confessed to her sees the scene and leaves disappointed. Before Sakuta can explain, Koga falls on top of him again. Just then, Mai enters the classroom and sees the situation unfold. She quietly leaves without saying a word. Sakuta tries to run after Mai but stops in his tracks when it hits him. Tomorrow is a new day, and the loop will reset. He'll have another shot at making things right. He can fix this. June 28th rolls in, and Sakuta is stunned to realize he's broken free of the loop, but the shock quickly sinks in. He and Mai aren't dating anymore, and she's still pissed at him for what went down the day before. He searches her out, but she's nowhere to be found in her classroom. Turning to Futaba for help, Sakuta gets a surprising response. Futaba tells him to chill. The guy who saw them a month ago, when he confessed his love to Mai in front of the whole school, will figure it out. There's no rush. After school, Kunimi and Sakuta are working their shift when their manager introduces Koga as their new co-worker. Sakuta's jaw nearly hits the floor when he sees her. Koga, equally stunned, can't believe it either. Neither of them expected this. Once the shift ends, Koga pulls Sakuta aside and drops a bomb. She wants him to fake date her and pretend to be her boyfriend in front of the school. Sakuta, taken aback, immediately shoots her down, but Koga lays it on thick, claiming it'll be embarrassing for her if her classmates find out the truth. Eventually, he relents, agreeing to the fake relationship with a heavy sigh. Back home, Sakuta takes a long, steamy bath, thinking about how ridiculous and fun it'll be to fake date Koga. But when he steps out, he finds Katie watching an ad with Mai in it, hyping up her role. Just as he's about to zone out, the doorbell rings. He opens the door to find Mai standing there, staring him down. She asks, without missing a beat, why he didn't come over to explain everything to her. Mai sits on Sakuta's bed while he's sitting on the floor, guilt eating away at him. She stares him down, demanding he spill the truth about Koga, wondering why she saw them in such a compromising position. Sakuta, feeling the weight of it all, explains how Koga gave him the same excuse that Katie used when she refused to go to school. After hearing him out, Mai doesn't hold it against him this time, especially when he compares Koga's problem to Katie's. She tells him to make it up to her later, after she's back from her shoot in Kogashima. Mai hands him a gift for Kaide, inside a dress that fits her perfectly. Kaide puts it on, glowing with newfound confidence. She starts getting less stiff with Mai, appreciating the gesture. Sakuta thanks Mai for thinking of his sister, and she accepts his gratitude before leaving. As Mai heads out, she casually asks about his date with Koga. Sakuta assures her his heart is only with her. Mai trusts him and walks out the door, leaving him with a quiet sense of relief. On the day of his date with Koga, Sakuta casually mentions that he doesn't have a smartphone, which shocks Koga. She wanted to add him to her contacts, but is thrown off by the fact he's not as connected as everyone else. They go through with the supposed date, and Koga ends up enjoying herself way more than she expected. Afterward, Koga pulls out a picture of her old self, a total total nerd back in the day, explaining how she changed everything about herself to fit in at her new school. Sakuta, sensing her struggle, advises her to accept who she really is, flaws and all. But Koga doesn't take it well. She snaps, annoyed by his suggestion. As they're about to leave, Koga spots a classmate staring at the sea. The girl is looking for her lost keychain, and Koga, with determination, dives in and finds it. Sakuta can't help but admire her for not giving up on helping her classmate. But the next day, Koga catches a cold, having fallen into the seawater during her search. Sakuta drops by to visit her, and she admits how anxious she is about being abandoned by her friends if she stays in the nurse's office. Sakuta feels a pang of sympathy for her. After school, Sakuta calls Mai to talk about their day. The next day, at school, he encourages Futaba to confess her feelings to Kunimi, but she refuses. During their work shift, Kunimi mentions a senior spreading rumors about Koga, calling her a whore around the school. Sakuta's blood boils at the injustice, and he swears he'll teach that senior a lesson for the senseless rumors. The next day, as Sakuta meets up with Koga, he notices whispers and stares from students. He tries to ignore the gossip and just talk to her, but it doesn't take long for their senior to show up and spew more insults. This time, Sakuta's had enough. He steps in, ready to shut this nonsense down. After a heated exchange, Sakuta lands a solid kick to the senior's face, knocking him down in front of the whole school. He doesn't stop there. He announces that he's a virgin and, in the most ridiculous, satisfying way possible, runs off with Koga. The two of them laugh it off afterward, the tension finally broken. Koga looks at him with a smile and tells him she felt good when he stood up for her. After a heartfelt chat, Sakuta offers her his friendship, telling her she can be his friend from now on. She teases him, saying he's a hopeless guy, but she'll be his best friend instead. Later, Koga finds herself staring at Mai, her expression unreadable. She sighs, feeling a mix of emotions swirling inside her. After Mai wraps up her shoot, she starts tutoring Sakuta, helping him prep for his exams. She says she wants to balance university with her showbiz career. Sakuta admits he's struggling to keep his focus, but Mai doesn't seem too worried. She's dressed up as the bunny girl, looking like she's ready for anything, but she also doesn't let Sakuta get away with flirting. She warns him not to cheat on Koga while they're still pretending to date. To wrap up their fake relationship, Sakuta and Koga agree to one last date before the summer vacation kicks off. They know it's all fake, just some fun, but they still want to make the most of it. The day starts with Katie waking Sakuta up, and he checks the date, July 18th, just the day before summer break should start. They have breakfast together, and Katie asks for a round watermelon. Sakuta promises he'll get one for her, no problem. Sakuta meets Koga at the train station, and she's running late, apologizing as she hurries over. She'd been putting on her swimsuit underneath her clothes, looking like a mess, but still cute. They hit the beach, goofing around, eating corn, swimming, and even building sandcastles. The whole day's a blast, and by sunset, they sit on the beach, staring at the horizon. Koga thanks him for pretending to be her boyfriend and giving her a day she'll never forget. It's bittersweet, but they both agree it's time to bring their fake relationship to a close. Sakuta heads home afterward, but the next morning, Kaede wakes him up again, this time telling him he's gonna be late for school. Sakuta's confused. He could have sworn it was supposed to be summer break. He checks the date, it's July 18th again. He asks Kaede if she wants a round watermelon, just to test if the day's repeating. She's got no clue, and he's starting to lose it. Sakuta heads to school, and during lunch, he checks in with Koga. He's feeling weird and asks her if anything strange happened to her. Koga's confused and says no. Then Sakuta asks if she realizes they're stuck in some crazy time. Koga insists it's her first time experiencing July 8th. She has no idea what he's talking. Sakuta feels like losing mind. Apologize for a walk, trying to figure out what's going on. Sakuta talks top, it's out dumb, tells Lap Koga line, and decides to invest further. Fearing the same. He meets Koga at the state. Every plays out to swim sandcastle. This time to turn prop clothes. Koga thanks him again, and they end things for real. The next day, the damn loop happens again. They're back at the beach, doing the same thing over and over. Koga thanks him like a broken record. Sakuta can't help but feel like he's stuck in some messed up version of Groundhog Day. Kaede shakes him awake the next morning, and it hits him. It's July 18th, again, for the fourth freaking time. Enough's enough. He's done with this nonsense. Instead of wasting time with the beach crap, he drags Koga to a shrine. They wander through the town, checking out the vendors, the usual boring stuff. Finally, they get to the shrine, and Sakuta writes their names on one of those stupid heart tablets and hangs it up. Koga's not feeling it, clearly annoyed, but whatever. After that, they head to a sight viewing spot. That's when Sakuta decides to call out the loop for what it is. He flat out tells Koga that no matter how much she tries to fake this stupid relationship with him, he's not gonna fall for her. Koga loses it, breaking down in tears, confessing she's actually into him. Sakuta doesn't flinch. He's still all about Mai, and he tells her there's no way he's returning those feelings. Koga's crushed, but she backs off in the end, finally giving up. Next day, Sakuta wakes up, and Kaede's at it again, watching the same damn news about Japan winning the football nationals. He checks the date. It's June 27th, the same day he and Mai started dating. Hell yeah. He's hyped now. He heads to school, meets Mai, and confesses again. When she doesn't immediately respond, he straight up tells her he's out if she doesn't answer him. Mai finally agrees to go out with him, kissing him on the cheek this time, not some egg roll nonsense. Afterwards, Sakuta runs into Koga. She's teasing him, saying he's responsible if her friendship with Rina gets all awkward. They laugh it off, and Koga admits she's happy to have him as a friend. Good for her, because it looks like her future's changing with new friends. One rainy day, while Sakuta and Mai are heading home, they spot a girl crouched down by a kitten. Sakuta, being the softie he is, decides to take the kitten, but the girl pipes up up, saying she wants to adopt it instead. Sakuta tells her she can get it from him later if she's serious about it. The girl introduces herself as Shoko Mahinohara, and Sakuta freezes, staring at her in shock. Something's off about this whole thing. Sakuta's mind races as he tries to piece together the mystery of Shoko Mahinohara, the girl he once had a crush on. The shock of seeing her again, but as a 7th grader this time, sends his thoughts spiraling. He can barely take his eyes off her whenever she's near. The memory of meeting her on the beach a year ago floods back, when she was the girl he couldn't forget. He named the cat Hayate, and Shoko visited his house every day, bonding with the cat like they were meant to be a part of his life. That day, as Sakuta tries to wrap his head around the bizarre timeline with Futaba, she confirms his suspicions. Shoko is indeed a mystery, a girl who is somehow both the same and different from his past crush. They're left wondering how it's possible for a 7th grader to have the same face as someone Sakuta knew a year ago. Futaba is thrown off by the coincidence too. She explains that it's possible this Shoko is a totally different girl with the same face, as there are supposed to be 3 people in the world with identical faces at the same time. But this theory does little to ease the growing unease in Sakuta's chest. A festival is coming up, and Sakuta's stuck working at the cafe when he notices Mai, one of his favorite people, sitting at a table as a customer. He can't help but grin and greet her. They decide to make up for lost time, but as they walk home together, they notice Futaba sneaking into an internet cafe late at night. Naturally, they decide to follow her inside, curious about what she's up to. As Sakuta quickly dials Futaba's number from Mai's phone, he hears her voice on the other end, but as he looks up, he sees a second version of Futaba walking ahead of him without a... This freaks them out, and they catch up with the 2 Futaba, only for the second Futaba to explain the unbelievable truth. There are 2 versions of her living in the same time, and the one with them now has nowhere to go since the other is at home. Futaba, with no other option, ends up staying at Sakuta's house, and as a bonus, Mai insists she'll stay too. The situation is getting more complicated by the minute, but Sakuta feels like he needs to figure it out. As Futaba takes a bath, Sakuta sits by the bathroom door, questioning her about what's going on. Futaba explains it could be a form of quantum trap, where information about her is transmitted to another body. This is how 2 Futabas can exist same time, different personalities version. It makes no sense, but they both agree it's the only plausible explanation. That night, Mai crashes on the living room floor with Sakuta, and he asks her to look after the real Futaba while he checks up on the other Futaba. The scene feels absurd. Sakuta is caught between 2 versions of his friend and his growing need to find answers. The next day, at school, Sakuta confronts the other Futaba at the basketball court. She's watching Kunimi's game, but Sakuta isn't interested in the match. He asks her how she fell for Kunimi, hoping for some sort of clarity. The answer comes from the unlikeliest place. Futaba fell for Kunimi when he shared his food with her once. It's almost too simple, but Sakuta can see it makes sense to her. But as she walks away, Kunimi's girlfriend storms up to Sakuta, her expression full of fury. She shoves her phone into his face and demands to know what Futaba's deal is. Sakuta is caught off guard. Why is she so angry? When he glances at the phone though, his jaw drops. It's an account made by Futaba, and on it, she's been posting provocative pictures of herself. His eyes widen in shock. This is the last thing he expected, and it makes his head spin even faster than before. How is it possible that the Futaba he knows, the one who is always so confident, has been hiding this secret? He has no idea where this will all lead, but he knows he's in for one hell of a ride. Sakuta gets back home and finds Futaba cooking curry in her lab coat, looking as cool as ever. They sit down and dig into dinner, but as soon as Futaba finishes, she heads off to take a shower. Sakuta hangs out outside the bathroom, trying to sort out the mess with Futaba's secret account. He brings it up, and Futaba confesses that she only made the account to post something like a message at first, but eventually, it became all about posting her own pictures for attention, and now, her other self is the one running the show, uploading all the pics. Futaba tells Sakuta that there's no need for 2 versions of her. The next day, he runs into the other Futaba at school, asking her about the lewd pics she's been posting. She shows him some older pictures that aren't explicit at all, just normal shots of her body. Sakuta tries to explain that both versions of her are just 2 sides of the same coin, but that only pisses her off. She storms off, saying the world doesn't need 2 Futabas. It hits Sakuta then. Both versions of Futaba want the other to disappear. The tension between them is real, and neither is okay with the other existing in the same space. Later that day, Futaba and Sakuta are on their way home when she gets a weird message about a stalker. Freaked out, she begs Sakuta to delete the account, which she does without hesitation. That night, Futaba insists Sakuta stay over at her place for a little extra support. While they're talking, they reminisce about their first encounter in class, where Sakuta found her a bit of a puzzle to solve. Futaba admits she was worried he wouldn't care about her anymore, now that he had a beautiful girlfriend like Mai. Sakuta laughs it off and reassures her, promising he'll always have time for her. He even tells her that Kunimi will be there for her whenever she needs him. Sakuta picks up Futaba's phone and calls Kunimi, lying to him that Futaba's in trouble and needs him to come quick. Kunimi shows up on his bike, ready to check things out. When Futaba sees how much her friends care for her, she finally breaks down in tears. Kunimi panics, thinking he messed up. The trio decides to go have some fun with fireworks at the beach that night. They let loose with the fireworks, playing around on the sand until they notice the sunrise creeping in. Kunimi suggests they go check out a fireworks display at the upcoming festival, and with a plan in place, he heads home in the early morning light. Futaba feels a huge weight lift off her shoulders, knowing Kunimi's feelings for her are genuine. She's ready to make peace with her other self, and hands Sakuta her phone before he leaves for the night. When he gets home, he finds the other Futaba waiting for him. He hands her the phone and gets some sleep, telling her he'll explain everything later. The next morning, the rain is pouring down, and Sakuta is on a mission to find Futaba. He asks Kaede where she went and finds out she left to go shopping while he was asleep. Without wasting time, Sakuta dashes out into the rain. He checks in with the other Futaba, who doesn't know where the real Futaba is either, but suggests he try looking at their old classroom. Sakuta makes a beeline for the school and finds Futaba in the classroom. He tries to explain everything about the fireworks, but fatigue hits hard and he passes out. When he wakes up, he's in the hospital, and Mai is there, keeping him company. He's relieved to see her and learns that Futaba called her to let her know what was going on. After some time, Sakuta talks to Futaba about the fireworks festival, where they plan to go with Kunami. Futaba apologizes for the chaos and finally accepts who she is. She asks Sakuta to call her other self, and as soon as she does, Futaba disappears. Sakuta picks up the phone, and now both versions of Futaba are one again, ready to enjoy the fireworks together. At the festival, the trio meets up in their yukatas and enjoys the night. While watching the fireworks, Futaba leans in and whispers her confession to Kunimi. She tells him she doesn't expect a reply. She knows what he'll say. All she wants is for him to make up with his girlfriend and enjoy himself. As she says this, a few tears slip down her face, but she's relieved. Her friendship with her friends wasn't ruined by her confession, and that's all that matters. On September 1st, Sakuta's summer vacation wraps up, and he's back at school. Mai's been wrapped up in her showbiz grind all summer, so he hasn't had the chance to catch up with her. He remembers her promise to spend more time with him once the second term kicks in, so he starts looking around for her. But Mai, nowhere to be found. Worry starts creeping in, and he decides to hunt her down. When he gets to her apartment, he spots Mai pacing around like she's on edge. He makes his way over, but weirdly, she pretends not to recognize him. Then, a blonde girl strolls up and tells Sakuta that she's the real Mai. She stomps on his foot hard, and that's when he finally clicks. Yeah, this is really her. They head back to Mai's place, where she drops the bombshell that somehow her body swapped with her little sister Toyohama the night before. Toyohama's in denial, thinking this is all just some twisted dream, while Sakuta and Mai try to keep their cool. The two sisters agree they're just gonna swap lives until they figure out how to get their bodies back, blaming the whole mess on adolescent syndrome. They swap schedules, get their lives set up, and prepare to walk in each other's shoes. The next day, as they head to the train station, Sakuta gives Toyohama the rundown about Mai. He explains that Mai is pretty much a loner at school, so she won't have a problem flying under the radar. Turns out Toyohama's a loner too, so she won't have any trouble blending in at Mai's school either. They roll up to school, and Sakuta consults Futaba about the whole situation. Futaba figures that Toyohama's unstable mind probably triggered the syndrome, and points to some serious inferiority issues with the sister. Sakuta takes Toyohama, now in Mai's body, to the beach, where she opens up about the issues with her sister. Sakuta listens patiently, and they walk back to the park. That's when he calls her out on her inferiority complex. She flips out, furious that he nailed her feelings about Mai right on the head. After Mai shows up, Toyohama goes off, saying she hates Mai because she's always compared to her sister's success. Mai just listens quietly as Toyohama throws her tantrum. Then she quietly walks away with Sakuta when it's over. As the days drag on, the sisters keep pretending to be each other, but their relationship just keeps getting worse. Sakuta puts in the effort to try and fix things, but nothing's working. One day, while passing by Mai's chute, he sees Toyohama freaking out in Mai's body, having a full-blown panic attack. She's crumbling under the pressure of living up to everyone's high expectations. Sakuta meets up with the real Mai and tells her about her sister's meltdown. Mai starts to realize that Toyohama might be onto something when she talks about their mom constantly pressuring her. Mai gives Sakuta her apartment keys, hoping he can talk to Toyohama and help her through it. But before he leaves, Mai warns him, don't open the cabinets in her Japanese-style closet. Sakuta goes over to Mai's apartment, where he meets Toyohama. He reassures her that Mai's worried about her and wants her to be okay. Toyohama is relieved, heads off for a bath, and spills her worries to Sakuta. Despite Mai's warning, Sakuta can't help himself. He reaches out to open the cabinets. Sakuta opens the cabinet and there it is, a green box sitting quietly inside. He flips it open and after seeing what's inside, he lets out a deep sigh. Honestly, he just wishes these two sisters would stop being so damn stubborn and make up already. Later that night, Sakuta takes Toyohama to watch a horror movie so she can practice being more like Mai. But damn, the movie scares her so bad she freaks out and wants him to stay with her. Of course, Sakuta's not having any of it. He doesn't want to risk pissing off Mai by sticking around, so he bounces. Back home, Sakuta walks in to find Kaede wearing her middle school uniform again. She tells him she's gonna work on herself and get the confidence to go outside. That hits Sakuta right in the feels, seeing his sister making progress. Hell, he's proud of her for even trying. Mai walks in right after and notices Kaede in the uniform. She's all smiles and praises Kaede, making her day. Then she turns to Sakuta, asking about the shoot and Toyohama. They chat for a while, and then Mai hands him a ticket to her gig, telling him to give it to Toyohama. The next day, Sakuta watches Toyohama absolutely crush her performance on set. He's pretty damn happy for her. After the shoot, he hands her the ticket, telling telling her to go see the gig and understand just how much work Mai puts into everything. On their way, Toyohama runs into her mom, who mistakes her for Mai. The old woman's all anxious, trying to figure out where Toyohama's been. Toyohama somehow manages to dodge her mom's nosy questions, getting her to leave without much fuss. Then, Sakuta runs into his dad, who asks about Kaede and his own condition. Sakuta's straight up indifferent, like he couldn't care less. He tells his dad he's fine on his own. When they get to the Cherry Bullet concert, Toyohama's in awe watching Mai, who's now in Toyohama's body, dominate the stage with her voice and moves. After the show, Toyohama watches as her mom, all smiles, shakes hands with Mai like they're besties. It hits Toyohama like a truck. Her mom's been nothing but cold to her, but now that Mai's in her body, she's all sweet and warm. That betrayal eats Toyohama up and she snaps. The thought crosses her mind, drowning in the ocean, getting away from all this crap. Sakuta can't let that happen. He stops her dead in her tracks and convinces her to come with him. He takes her to Mai's apartment and pulls out that damn green box from the closet. He opens it, and inside, it's full of letters. Toyohama's letters to Mai, dozens of them. She breaks down in tears, realizing her sisters kept every single one. Then, Mai shows up. Toyohama opens her heart, finally admitting she doesn't hate her. Mai just listens and tells her to enjoy the ride of being a star, even when it's tough. They hug it out, both of them apologizing for the mess they made. The sisters patch things up. As soon as they own up to their bullshit, their bodies switch back, everything's normal again. And just like that, the sisters patch things up. Be successful like her sister anymore. She wanted to be her. That was the tipping point. Mai holds a press conference, putting the whole world on notice about her relationship with Sakuta. The news goes live, and Kaede watches it, grinning with pride, all like, "That's my sister." After the conference, Mai meets up with Sakuta, who's low-key stoked about the whole announcement. It's like a public stamp on their bond. As they walk back home, they can't help but shower each other with love, joking around, talking about how much they're into each other. It's a sweet moment. But the vibe shifts when Sakuta gets back home and finds a mysterious letter in his mailbox. He opens it, and BAM! It's from Shoko, the girl from his past, asking him to meet her at the beach where they first met. The next day, Sakuta is back at it with Futaba, ranting about his current mess. Futaba's over it though. She's tired of hearing about the adolescent syndrome. She tells him to talk to his girlfriend, Mai, because she's got a better shot at handling this than Futaba ever will. Sakuta is a little nervous, but he decides to tell Mai about the letter from Shoko. To his surprise, Mai doesn't blow up at him. Instead, she's chill about it and forgives him for wanting to meet his ex. They argue a bit, but in the end, they agree to meet Shoko together. Before meeting Mai on the beach, Sakuta runs into Komi, Kaide's old friend. She gives him the scoop on the whole school situation. Apparently, the girls who bullied Kaede are getting a taste of karma. The whole school turned on them, and they eventually stop showing up altogether. Komi feels bad for not helping Kaede earlier, but Sakuta reassures her. Finally, Sakuta heads to the beach to meet Mai. They wait for Shoko, but after a while, it's clear Shoko's not showing, so they bail and head home. Later, Sakuta calls Shoko, who apologizes and says she's been sick and can't come by for a while. Sakuta doesn't buy it completely, but lets it slide for now. Back home, Kaede drops a bombshell. She's gonna improve herself. She shows Sakuta a list of goals she wants to accomplish, with the final one being to rejoin school. Sakuta's all proud of her and tells her to take the first step. Answering the phone, Mai helps Kaede face her fear, and when Kaede finally picks up the phone for the first time in forever, she passes out from the fever afterward. She tells Sakuta she's just happy she made progress. Next, Kaede tackles the challenge of stepping outside. It's a whole ordeal. She's terrified, but Sakuta tricks her into taking the first step. Once she realizes she's outside, she breaks down in tears. The weight of it all hits her, but she's done it. She's free. Kaede's confidence grows little by little. She goes to parks, even visits Mai's place, and starts pushing herself further. But even as her health improves, she can still feel the weight of people staring at her. To cheer her on, Sakuta, Mai, and Toyohama take Kaede to the beach. Kaede's amazed by the sea, and she's laughing and playing with Sakuta, feeling more at ease than she has in a long time. But then, Komi shows up, calling Kaede out. Sakuta tells Mai and Toyohama about what happened 2 years ago. He explains that one day, Kaede suddenly started acting like a stranger. When they took her to get checked, it turned out she had lost all her memories of the life she had with her family. Slowly, with Sakuta's help, she began to open up to him. One day, after school, Sakuta saw a bruise on Kaede's body. He rushed to tell their mom, but she was too shocked by Kaede's condition to react properly. That night, Sakuta woke up with intense pain and found a big wound on his chest. When they rushed him to the hospital, the doctors couldn't explain it and just said it was self-inflicted. Sakuta didn't know what to think anymore. Nobody believed his story, and he couldn't accept his sister's condition. In his frustration, he went to the beach and met Shoko, who listened to him and believed everything he said. Her support helped him feel relieved, and he worked harder to help Kaede. He gave Kaede a diary to write down her thoughts, and she was happy to do it. it. But when Sakata lost contact with Shoko, he got even more confused. Kaede only felt safe with Sakata, so their parents left her in his care. Now in the present, Mai gets a shooting job outside the city. Sakata tells Kaede about it, and she asks about Komi. He explains that Komi used to be her friend. Sakata gives Kaede a book that Komi had borrowed from her. When Kaede opens it, she finds a note that makes her remember something, but it's too much, and she faints after reading it. Sakata gets worried and stays with her until she wakes up. When she does, he asks what she wants to do. She says she wants pudding, and Sakata happily gets it for her. Slowly, he helps her make progress with her goals. Kaede gets counseling to face her fear of school, and the teacher encourages her to go. Kaede feels motivated and even gets excited to try going to school the next day, but when the day comes, Kaede freaks out and runs away from the school entrance. Sakata chases after her, trying to convince her to at least look at the school, but Kaede refuses to even get close. So, Sakata suggests taking her to a special place that will help her forget her fears. They go on a long trip to the zoo, and Kaede's mood lifts when she sees all the animals. She gets especially excited to see the panda. After the zoo, Sakata takes her on a detour to a school at night, telling her it won't be as scary. Kaede goes inside and is curious about the school. After Kaede loses her bubbly vibe, she gets dragged to the hospital for a checkup. The doc drops the bomb on Sakata and his dad, saying that Kaede's gotten her old memories back, but lost the last 2 years of her life. Sakata listens, feeling like total garbage as he watches his sister stumble around trying to figure out what's going on. He bolts out of the hospital like a maniac, running through the rain, screaming, feeling like he's killed Kaede's other self. Then, out of nowhere, he drops to the ground, clutching his chest. The wounds on his body start leaking blood, the same marks appearing again. He's a mess, sobbing in the rain. That's when a lady shows up with an umbrella, holding it over his head. He looks up, and it's Shoko, the one who saved him 2 years ago. She tells him to calm the hell down and that she's here to fix his mess. She takes him back to his place, helps him get changed, and even lets him wallow in his misery while she reads Kaede's diary. Shoko reads through all the shit Kaede went through in the past 2 years, the stuff that happened when Sakata introduced his friends to her. As Shoko reads, Sakuta's guilt starts to fade. When she reaches the last pages, Kaede talks about her goals and how she wanted to overcome her fears, get back to being the Kaede she was before all the trauma hit. Sakuta feels a little lighter as he hears about Kaede's progress. After the bath, Sakuta crashes on his bed, trying to sleep it off. The next morning, Shoko's gone, leaving him alone again. His mood's still a wreck until Mai shows up. She tries to cheer him up, but when she spots the note from Shoko, her whole vibe shifts. Sakuta spills about his messed up routine and how he nearly died from the wound, crying himself to sleep. Mai's pissed and storms out of the apartment. Sakuta tries to apologize, but she's not having it. She throws him some words about relying on her and letting her in on his pain before disappearing for a while. For the next few days, Sakuta tries to get used to life with Kaede now that she's different, figuring out how to help her catch up on the lost 2 years. He's adjusting, but the whole thing with Mai still hangs over him. Then Toyohama rolls in, absolutely furious at Sakuta for treating Mai like crap. She drops the bomb on him that it's Mai's birthday, and he hasn't even reached out. She pulls up the webpage with her birthday date, and suddenly, Sakuta's heart races. Without thinking, he dashes off to the train station and races his way to Mai's shooting gig. He looks all over for her, but when he can't find her, he feels like a failure. Just when he's about to give up, he looks behind him and boom! There she is, wearing a black cap, looking like a damn queen. He grabs her and drags her to a quiet spot. He finally wishes her a happy birthday, and they spend the night just being together. Finally, everything clicks, and they make up. They spend the night at peace, and Sakuta's life settles back into a normal, happy rhythm.